What's up, everybody? I'm Sifu Delmar, and welcome to Martial Mentality. I'm your host, and with me today I have
Brian Cobble. How are y'all?
So we're going to talk about competing. To compete or not compete? That is the question. Brian, so we have a Kung Fu tournament coming up soon. Can you tell us a little bit about the Fall Classic?
The Fall Classic is a tournament that we've actually taken over. It's been running for how many years now? It seems like 20.
This is the 28th annual Fall Classic.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're approaching 30. 28th Fall Classic. Now, I know our school has just kind of taken over recently, and it's actually been a lot of fun to run. A lot of people are using it as a preparatory tournament for Quoshu, and I like that because that's always a competitor or a feeder for world tournaments.
So those of you who maybe aren't as well versed in the martial arts community, Quoshu is a big international tournament that is held annually in Baltimore. And I encourage everybody, if you get a chance to compete up there or go watch, it's phenomenal. The competition is out of this world. So if you're really wanting to test yourself, the Quoshu tournament is phenomenal to go to. You would love it. But the Fall Classic, for those of you who love competing, is a great, as Brian said, feeder tournament. And Brian, when you say feeder tournament, what do you mean by that?
Well, I have two kind of ideas in my mind when I think about that. One, it's the preparation. It's the practice before you quite get there. And two, it's a good way for you to find out where you stack among the competition.
Right. And the thing about the Classic is that it's a regional tournament, meaning that you're going to have less people, but that doesn't mean the competition is not as fierce.
No, because some of those people have gone on to Quoshu and done quite well. I'm talking about Sifu Johnny. I think Sifu Logan has done really well.
Yeah, he's competed up there as well. Actually, a lot of people in our region, and for those who don't know, we're in the Carolinas. So we have a lot of people that go up to the big Quoshu tournament to compete or judge. And so we try to make the regional tournaments in this area preparation for a bigger competition like that. So we want to encourage everybody, if you can, the Fall Classic's held October 12th. It's going to be at the MC Suites at Ardsley. Go to www.kungfuforever.com. Click on the tournaments tab if you want to pre-register. I would encourage you to, just show up, and if you want to compete, great. If not, come spectate. It's a fun time.
Trust me, you want to compete. Do it. It's fun. Do it.
Speaking of competing, Brian, you actually competed at these regional tournaments. Did you ever compete at the Classic?
2 years ago.
Okay. Tell us about your time competing.
That was a very interesting time because I had just gotten back from a 3-year hiatus.
Okay.
And wanted to see how I was going to do.
Well, how did you do?
Both good and bad.
Okay. Well, the good thing about a tournament is that obviously you can learn from those situations and increase your skill as a martial artist.
And again, I didn't have a lot of time to practice. I had 2 months to get basically from zero to competition ready.
So let me ask you this, you have a lot of people that do martial arts and they go, well, I don't really want to do tournaments. I'm only doing it for this, that, and the third. So what are some of the pros and cons of competing in a tournament, in your opinion?
Well, to those people, I tell you this. If you're doing something and you're doing something like martial arts, let's go there. If you're doing something that is directly in opposition to a person a lot of the time,
mm-hmm.
and you're not putting yourself in opposition to a person, what are you doing?
That's a good point.
Because you're leaving out half the equation, in my opinion.
For me, and I actually just competed in a tournament a few months ago. I went up to Illinois and competed in my friend Dimitri Daniels tournament. So shout out to the Midwest Federation. So if you ever get a chance, they have tournaments in Illinois all the time for karate, taekwondo, kung fu, muay thai. I mean, it's the whole gamut. So as you can see,
I regret I missed that one.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys.
It was fun. It was really fun. But I definitely, even as a teacher, still got an opportunity to test myself, test my skills against somebody new outside of my area. And I personally think that's a great way to increase your abilities. And, I try to, as I teach here at the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu, I try to not just say, hey, everybody, we're just going to do tournaments every month. But, maybe quarterly we'll try to do one. And I really think it's good for younger people because it gives them that sort of sport aspect, even though like a lot of people teach martial arts as a way of life. For younger people, they need that competition. They need that push to kind of be better.
Well, even that, it just gets them in front of other people and comfortable being in front of somebody else or many somebody else is doing something.
Yeah. One thing that I guess we've noticed about our kids is sometimes they have trouble presenting themselves.
Yeah, they do.
And, the way we try to, make them understand why competing is good is we make every student go up and introduce themselves, say what you're doing, who do you represent, what's your style, and plus that gets you in a way of being able to present yourself. And honestly, I will say this, due to my martial arts experience doing those things, when I'm on camera, hence now, or maybe if I'm doing a job interview or I'm presenting information, I'm able to do it more comfortably because I'm used to being in front of a camera, used to being in front of people, used to presenting myself.
Yeah, no, it's helped me too because once you get out there and you get in front of other people, you have to engage this part of your brain where I have to tune this out. And there's always distractions no matter what you do, where you do it. If you're at work, there's all kinds of things that can be going on depending on your job, be it other people, be it noise, be it music, be it heaven only knows with some jobs. And the ability to just shut that out and still focus on what have you is pretty important.
So let me ask you this. What in your mind makes a good tournament?
Good judges. And that's kind of a necessity. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, coming up here in a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
But also good competition. If I go to a tournament and I walk through whatever I'm competing in or whoever I'm competing against even, that's not a good tournament for me because I need a little bit of a challenge, as bad as that may sound. I crave that, and that's a necessity for me.
I feel a good competition makes you want to be better, no matter what the outcome was. If you won and you had a challenge, I still think that's going to fuel you to be better. If you lost and it was still challenging, it will still fuel you to be better. So did you really lose? Because you're gaining something.
I mean, yes, but you just didn't lose as much.
Right. I mean, everybody wants to win their medals and their trophies, and everybody wants the glory.
I just want bragging rights. I don't care about the shiny.
But I mean, everybody does. You want to win, but unfortunately, as we like to tell the kids here, and we tell our students, you either win or you learn. So
I don't agree with that entirely.
Why do you not agree with that?
Because even if I win, chances are I still learned something as long as there was that hard fought win.
But you usually win more. No. How shall I say this? You usually learn more when you maybe haven't reached your goal as opposed to reaching your goal. Because sometimes what happens to a lot of people is they become complacent because I won, so guess what? I guess there's nothing I need to work on. And that's not necessarily true, like you said.
Well, I just have that mindset of there's always something to work on.
Right. No, I mean, and that's why competing is good because, like you said, you can stack yourself up against your other peers, basically. How do I compare? Am I on par with other martial artists who've been practicing as long as I have? Or am I below standard? And if I'm below standard, what can I do to increase my martial arts skills so I can be on par with others? So, I mean, no matter what, a good tournament should leave you wanting to be a much better martial artist than you were when you first entered the tournament.
I definitely agree with that, yeah.
So you said good judging makes a good tournament. Why do you feel having a good judge makes a competition better?
Well, having a good judge it comes from three different points. One, if I have a good judge, I know ultimately both myself and the competitors as a whole are safe. And I guess I'm referring more to sparring aspects on that.
Okay.
Because trust me, that's where I'd rather be most of the time. I like to spar, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
So one, I can know that they're not going to let things get out of control, because I've seen things get out of control and people get hurt.
And safety is super important at the tournament. And you're right, like for somebody, because I know you've judged and I judge as well. The safety of the competitor is utmost importance. And what happens to a lot of people is sometimes they are, let's be honest about it. We have some judges that sometimes get unfocused. They're not really paying attention, or maybe their practices sometimes at their own schools is not necessarily safe, and they bring that same mindset to the tournament. So a good tournament director and staff will train the judges to do what they want that competition to be about. For example, for us at the Classic, we're going to make sure that all the judges that pre-register, make sure you go through the rules. We're going to give you examples of how we want sparring to be done, how we want the forms to be run. So you understand, and we're all on the same page. When you have people just come in and there's a disjointed mindset between the judges, then you're going to get, some people who are misjudged.
I have a question, and I want to make, because I don't know the answer to this. How many times have we restated, at least for the Fall Classic, that we've essentially rewritten all of the rules for every category?
I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but what you have nowadays is you have a lot of people who, unfortunately, people don't read. And they don't want to read. I know.
So now you can listen is where I'm going with this.
Yes. So we're here to help you. So if you want to, do well at a competition, this is going to sound rudimentary, but it's true. Read the rules.
Exploit the rules.
Yes. The rules are there not only for you to understand what to do, but how to do it. And like Brian said, a good competitor exploits the rules.
Exactly.
So, let's take this to like real life fighting, okay? Real life fighting doesn't necessarily have rules, but if we're following the laws, technically those are our rules in a sense. So I need to understand how I can exploit the law in my favor if I need to defend myself. Now, like I said, I know there's no rules, but you don't want to go to jail for defending yourself.
No, I don't.
So guess what? You need to know your laws wherever you are. Same concept. When you go to competition, you need to know the rules. So now, if I know I can get away with 3 warnings, and I'm not telling anybody to do this,
and not telling you to do this.
I'm not telling you to do this. Don't do this. But I'm saying, if you know, okay, excessive contact, I can get away with 3 of those. Okay, maybe you're a guy and you like to hit hard, and you hit somebody hard once or twice, and you get 2 warnings. Well, I got 1 more warning, so I need to make sure I back off. Or some people.
Dirty fighting.
I've seen people do it.
Delmar Minor.
I've seen people do it. I've seen people and be coached to say, you know what? I want you to hit that guy hard because you're only going to get a warning. So you can take 1 warning. I've seen people do it. I've even seen people coach people, look, I'd rather you get disqualified than, not defend yourself. So it just depends. So when you read the rules.
That sounds familiar. I wonder where I've heard that before.
I plead the 5th. If you exploit the rules and you know the rules, you can use that to your advantage for you and your students.
Okay, so we talked about safety, and then we talked about exploiting the rules. We're going to go back to good judging.
Yes.
The other thing that good judges do, beyond making it safe, is they do know the rules. And they do know when they're applied correctly and when they're not. I have seen tournaments. I've seen matches be lost that really shouldn't have been lost because maybe the competitor hit in a what's the proper word? I guess a fouled area, or an area that's out of bounds, so to speak. Or maybe he did hit too hard and he got away with it. Or maybe they should have called the match because they couldn't stop the bleeding within a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that because the match was going to go on for just a few more seconds and it would be okay. All of those things I've seen, and they weren't supposed to happen, but they did.
And I also think what makes a good tournament is organization. I have gone to competitions that aren't necessarily organized. And trust me, we understand. We're in the process of planning the Fall Classic. This is a big venue, and this is a regional tournament. So you imagine planning a tournament like Quoshu that has hundreds of competitors, people who come from literally all around the world. Can you imagine trying to gather that many people and all the logistics that go into that?
Yes, because I helped you run it last year, or with it last year.
Well, I mean, yeah, you helped me run the Fall Classic, but, now that's on a way bigger scale. And so, I have a lot of respect for people who run tournaments. And trust me, guys, tournaments are not cheap.
Or easy
to plan. So if you go to a competition, you see the tournament staff, make sure you thank those guys. Because those people that put in a lot of hard hours behind the scene to make sure that you're having the best possible time. And you want to have fun. So again, what goes back to a good tournament? Having fun. When we go to the Classic, it's like a family reunion. We see all our old friends. We see
some of which I haven't seen since last year.
Right, and it's literally like a big party, but it's a martial arts party.
Mm-hmm.
And another good thing too is that the people, especially at the Fall Classic, and even we also have a tournament in the spring as well. CACMA runs a tournament in the spring. It's called the Queen Charlotte's Cup. So be looking out for more information on that as well.
My first tournament ever was a Queen Charlotte's Cup.
Oh, well, real quick, let's transition or segue. Do you have any good tournament stories?
Do you want them just about martial arts, or do you want me to go back into my old fencing career?
Okay, whatever you feel like is pertinent for the show.
Okay, so what would you define as a good story? You want something that shouldn't have happened, or you want a hilarious story?
Whatever you want to say. I listen.
So one of my all-time favorite points in time, this was back when I was a sophomore in college, and it is a fencing tournament. I don't think I'm going to get anybody in trouble by saying where it was. So we were in Clemson, and back then it was the Winthrop Fencing Club, and we took like 12 different people down to this tournament. And some of us had been doing really well. We had been getting our rankings in fencing. They rank you E through A as just kind of an idea of how good you are, if you've won tournaments, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an essentially how you're doing through the year. And some of us were starting to get rankings. We had just gotten really competitive as a group. We were really trying to hone our abilities. Our coach was very serious. So it was kind of our breakout time. And one of my I'm going to mention him as a teammate. It's not a team sport, but I still call him a teammate, even though we would have had to fence each other. Came to me as we were coming through this tournament. We had just finished our pools. We were all getting rated. He went through his first match, and he came to me and he's like, I lost to that guy. I was like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, but he was a real dick about it.
Mm.
I said, who was it? he pointed him out to me, and I said, great. If I win my next match, he's next.
Okay.
So I won that match. And now I'm facing this guy who just, insulted my teammate 3 hours earlier.
So you became an Avenger.
Oh, yes, I did. I made it my mission to just absolutely abuse him as much as I could in that fight, or in that match. I won that match, by the way. I almost won that tournament. But I won that match. And I won it clean. I didn't foul anybody. I didn't do anything like that. But I definitely made sure he knew, because I'm going to back up a second. One of the things that you do in fencing, the only way you can kind of tell each other apart is if you're wearing some kind of different color socks.
Okay.
Because, you're in the full mask, you're in the full white jacket, white pants, or black pants, but you really can't tell anybody apart very well.
Oh, that's why everybody wears the funky socks. I always wondered that.
So in our bid to be Winthrop students, team, whatever, we wore Winthrop colors. So we had burgundy and we had gold, one on each leg. So I made it my mission to make sure he remembers not to insult the people in burgundy and gold.
I got you.
And we did pretty well, I think.
So real quick tournament story.
What about you? Tell me what was your good tournament story?
Quick tournament story. This one's kind of funny. So basically, we had an inter-school tournament. Sifu Chris Vicente of the Mint Hill Kung Fu School used to do these pre-competitions to get us ready to go to just a regular competition. So it would be like, at the time I was part of Winthrop Kung Fu, and we would take that group up there. You went to some of the inter-school tournaments.
I went to a couple.
Yeah. So we would go up there, and it would be us and maybe a few other schools. We kept it relatively small in order to kind of prepare students for what it was to be at a actual tournament. So it's like a pre-tournament.
It was like a smoker match. Let's not even begin to.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. So I'm up there judging, and we had a student. I'll never forget. We had been practicing this one form, okay, and the form that we had been practicing was Lien Bu Tran, or also translated as continuous fist. It is a really famous kung fu form. A lot of different systems and styles do it. We have been practicing this for months. This is what you're going to perform. We had already talked about this. So he gets up there, and he's about to present his form.
I remember Lien Bu, yeah.
Yeah, and he goes and says, judges, my name is X, Y, and Z. I'm going to be presenting 5 stances.
I remember this. I was here for this.
Now, I'm the judge in this ring, okay? And I know this gentleman. I know what he's doing.
I remember, yep. I was standing on the other side of the ring.
I literally stopped him right there, and I said, no, you're not. You're going to do Lien Bu. You're not doing 5 stances. Some people will also call it for Wu Bu Tran. You're not doing Wu Bu Tran. You're not doing 5 stances. You're doing Lien Bu because that's what we practice.
For the non-martial arts viewers in the audience, Lien Bu is a little bit of a step up from 5 stances. So he was going down to the very beginner form.
Basic.
Instead of upgrading himself like he should have been.
Right. When you go to competition, the goal is to increase your skills, but increase your skills by challenging yourself. So my advice to some of you guys, hey, you know what? If you're not good at something, well, train that. Get better at it and then go present it. That will make you a better overall martial artist. If you don't like sparring, well, guess what? Spar at the tournament.
Do it anyway.
Yeah, do it. Why not? Especially at the Fall Classic, it's literally all you can compete. So you pay one set price. You can compete as much as you want and try something different. The point is to learn. And what happens to a lot of people is they go into competition and they will do something new and find out, hey, this is a new skill set I've learned, or this is something different that I can do at the tournament. In fact, shout out to one of our students, John Cabre. John did his first tournament last year, and John literally signed up for like 6-7 events.
Yeah, he was tired at the end.
Yeah, he was. But guess what? John medaled in all his events.
He did well.
And John had a blast, and he learned so much. And now John has competed at every tournament since then. So shout out to John, because John's not afraid to, expand his martial arts horizon. So my encouragement to everybody who's listening to this podcast is, if, you have a local tournament in your area, go participate in it if you can. If you're able to come to the Fall Classic, please, we'd love to have you. For all you instructors, advanced competitors, we now offer advanced competitors age 15 and up to be able to judge. Of course, we got to make sure that your instructor's okay with that. But we want to try to train the next generation of, not only competitors, but judges, because, the old guys aren't going to be around forever.
Now, wait, before you wrap this up, finish the story, because I want to hear the end of this.
Oh, okay. Well,
we got off track. I want them to know.
I kind of figured that was like the end of the story.
No, just tell them.
To make a long story short, basically, going back to the story about the student, I pretty much, Ballin told him that you're doing this form, and he did the form, and he did relatively well. But, I would suggest that, don't be like me when I did that. Just make sure that you tell your students ahead of time, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. Please stick to the plan. Don't change at the last minute, because that's what we've been practicing.
That was one of those moments, and there are very few, where I have genuinely seen you angry.
Well, I was mad, because, this is what we had practiced. So anyway, Brian, listen up. Let's actually talk about the Fall Classic and what it has to offer. What are some of the events that we're hosting this year at the 2024 CACMA Fall Classic?
Well, I'm obviously going to mention my favorite first.
Okay, which is? And
that's Jinshu, or sword sparring, or just weapon sparring in general, because we need more weapons.
So a lot of these viewers maybe have never done any Jinshu or sword sparring. So can you explain what that is to them?
So honestly, it is exactly like what it sounds. It is sparring with Jin, or Gim in Southern, which is the straight sword. And I like it because it is analogous to fencing, but I also just like weapons in general. So that's where my kind of favorite thing is. It's also the event that I won when I competed.
And for those of you who've never done any kind of weapon sparring, especially for Kung Fu practitioners, what you're starting to see, with the emergence of HEMA, you're starting to see a lot more Kung Fu practitioners doing more weapon sparring, stabs and Jin and spears and things of that nature. And so hopefully the goal is in the future to be able to offer more weapon sparring at the tournament, because, what other style has more weapons than Kung Fu?
I don't know of one.
Right.
What have we got, like 18 weapons?
No, God, there's more than that. There's 18 basic, but you have variants off of those weapons. Obviously you have, Shaolin whip, and then you have, chain whip and a snake spear. You just go on and on and on and on and on. There's so many weapons. It's ridiculous. Another thing that the Fall Classic has that a lot of Kung Fu tournaments don't necessarily have, we have Lei Tai. And Lei Tai, for those of you who don't know what that is where you get the ability to pretty much put on gear, and you get to
intensely spar
and pressure test your Kung Fu abilities, usually on a raised platform. If we're able to get a platform, we'll usually try to have it at the tournament, but sometimes that's not possible. If you definitely go to Quoshu does have a raised platform, and I myself actually was able to do Lei Tai in about 2008 at the Queen Charlotte's Cup. And I will honestly tell you that was one of the turning points in my martial arts career, because there is nothing like somebody trying to knock you out or trying to throw you on your head that really showcases if what you're doing is effective.
did I train well enough to survive?
Right, exactly, right. And so, those experiences are things that I keep with me today and that have actually helped me in real life self-protection scenarios. So I am so glad that, I had that experience, because when I got in a real life scenario, I was able to keep my cool and use my martial arts to my ability. So, going back before, if I didn't compete, would I have been able to, respond the same way that I needed to when that time arrived?
You had backup, but if you're talking about the incident I'm thinking about.
Yes, but we'll save that for another episode. That's another episode.
Focusing on what we were talking about, though, two other things I do want to mention because I think they're pretty interesting and I don't see them at as many tournaments. Chisao.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. And can you explain what Chisao is?
Not as well as I want to.
Okay.
Chisao is one of those things where I've always looked at it. It's, and help me out with this, please.
So some people will call Chisao sticky hands. And so you'll see a lot of Wing Chun practitioners do Chisao. So they'll usually touch hands and they'll do their hands in a rolling motion. And then the goal is to try to hit your opponent with a technique. And because you're sticking, you're able to feel that sensitivity and you can redirect that motion and counterattack. Sometimes people will start grappling.
I've always heard that there's a lot of trapping involved in that, which
trapping,
is why I've been interested in it.
Trapping. But the thing about sticky hands is a lot of people kind of see it as, oh, well, that's a form of fighting. No, it is a drill that is done to teach fighting concepts and to develop sensitivity. Similar to push hands, which is another event that we have at the tournament.
That was the other thing I wanted to mention. Because I do have some Tai Chi in my background from ages ago. Push hands is kind of an application version of that. And I think that I've been told they're analogous. I have not done Chisao. It's on my list of things to do in the next tournament I compete in, which won't be this one because I'm helping out as a judge and volunteer, but sometime soon, I promise. Push hands, first of all, if you do Tai Chi, you understand that it's very much about structure and entire bodily movement. One of the things that is primary among that is not only directing force, but yielding to force as well, which is done pretty well illustrated in push hands, where we touch hands and there's a back and forth motion that's created because I'm not trying to football tackle my way through the opponent. I'm trying to subtly shift him off balance. The less force that you can use, the better. Now, inevitably, that always, with guys especially, it always devolves into who's got the better muscle.
Right.
But in the spirit of it, if you can learn especially to yield to those type of things, you actually end up throwing them.
And what I think a lot of people don't realize about Chisao and push hands, remember, these are drills. They're developing a skill. And so at the end of the day, if you grapple with an opponent and you have good Chisao skills, good push hand skills, it basically devolves down into wrestling. And if I am more sensitive than you and I understand how to shift weight and I understand how to be subtle, I have a better chance of throwing you, toppling you over, catching you in a joint lock, doing something that's really bad to you because I'm able to basically, one up you because I'm more sensitive than you are. I understand my balance better than you do. I am more relaxed than you are. And so people who grapple, those are all things that, people do jiu-jitsu, judo, catch wrestling, Swai Jiao. Those are all the same
another
things.
thing at the tournament.
Oh, yes, we do have Swai Jiao. And Swai Jiao, pretty much for those of you who maybe don't know what that is Chinese version of wrestling.
How can I get you to the ground the quickest?
Pretty much. The difference between Swai Jiao and, let's say, judo or jiu-jitsu is the fact that Swai Jiao does a lot of its competition standing on the feet. So my goal is, can I throw you or topple you and have any portion of your body that is not your feet touch the ground?
while maintaining my own.
Yes, you have to
Vertical
maintain your
uprightness.
own balance. And one reason that it was always practiced that way, I mean, you think about, being on a battlefield. And, granted, yes, fights do go to the ground. We know that. But if you can try to stay on your feet, if you got a spear or a sword, I don't want to be on the ground because I may have a harder time. Or if there's animals or horses and things going on around me, I can get stompled, I can be trapped. So I want to try to stay on my feet as much as possible and get you down to the ground while I maintain the high ground.
Well, there's also the case of you have a lot of friends in the wars that these were most used in, and it's very hard for me to react to multiple people on the ground.
Right. So while ground fighting is still important, we also have to understand some of the context of some of the things of why we're doing what we're doing. So we also have continuous sparring. So that means that you're going to continue to spar. There'll be a set round. You have to win 2 out of 3 rounds. And pretty much if you do martial arts, pretty much everybody knows what that is. So,
Or you should, and if not, I honestly kind of worry for you.
Right. And then we also have our empty hand forms, which this year we're doing something a little bit different. So
Yes, we are.
we split the categories for Northern and Southern, which, I mean, we've always had them, but we're being a little bit more specific about those categories and how they're judged. And then for individuals whose style of martial arts don't necessarily fit into those categories, we have the other category. And so we want to encourage other systems, other styles, that if you want to come compete, come do it in the other category. I mean, even we may have some people who do Northern and Southern systems of martial art compete in the other category. And so what we're trying to do with the Fall Classic this year is we're trying to not only just overall improve the tournament, but we're trying to make it so some of the more traditional martial arts can be judged appropriately on their individual styles, as opposed to some of the more esoteric martial arts have the ability to compete in their style, in their system, and still be judged appropriately.
And that's a big thing that we want to focus on is being judged appropriately. And that's why, we always separate Northern and Southern, because they are very different at their core. But this is also the call to judges. So, Southern Kung Fu, we invite you to come out, give us judges, because we need help judging that, because I don't recognize Southern as well as I do Northern, because I do Northern.
Right. So, while we're all martial artists, and yes, we can, be able to separate what's good and what's bad, that doesn't necessarily mean that we know all the individual nuances of systems and styles and things of that nature.
I don't.
And even though you can be a well-versed martial artist, I have seen people who somebody comes in a ring and does something that they've never seen before, and they don't know how to judge it. And so that person is misjudged, and they may have done something really good based on their style or system. Another quick tournament story. Myself and Sifu Chris Vicente went to the ICMAC tournament in Chicago years ago when the ICMAC was still running up there. Which, for those of you, in the Chinese martial arts community, you've been to the ICMAC tournaments. They're run by Nick Screama. There's a big one down in Florida, usually in the month of July. So if you're looking for another big, international tournament to go to, that's a great one to go to as well. But anyway, so, I'm at the tournament. I'm going up there to compete. And this guy comes in the ring, and I had never seen this before at the time. He does a Southern praying mantis form. So those of you who've never seen Southern praying mantis, it looks like you're having a seizure. And it looks really strange. It looks really weird. But, I never forget that Sifu Chris was judging in this ring, and he gave the guy high scores. So half the ring gave him high scores. The other half gave him low scores.
Because I'm guessing half of them didn't
know what he was doing. And so I'll never forget it. After I competed and everything like that, Sifu Chris was like, that Southern praying mantis guy, was, he was robbed because he did an excellent form, but the other judges didn't know what he was doing, so they scored him low. So that's why, going back to why do you need good judges? You need judges who are familiar or willing to be familiar with, a good variety of martial arts to be able to understand what is a good kung fu form or what is good karate or whatever it is.
In the particular category that they're in.
Right, yeah. And so that's another reason why, obviously as a tournament staff, we decided to separate these things so we can try to put people in their best expertise in order to make sure that the judging is on par. So that's what I hope for.
I think it'll also make the competition a little bit more cutthroat, neck and neck, intense.
Well, yeah.
Whichever word you're going to pick here,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
hopefully we've narrowed down the groups in such a way that you'll be doing things that are of the similar mindset, and the little things will matter a whole lot more there.
Oh, I agree. So, I also feel like some of the judges that have pre-registered, these guys are heavy hitters, man. And these guys know their kung fu. So
He doesn't mean me.
I never know. That's not true. That's not true. But the thing is, like, these gentlemen, these ladies, they understand what they're looking for. And so when you get to that ring, you better bring your A game. Because if you don't bring your A game, you may not score the way you think you're going to score, because you have to understand.
I promise it's not vodka in the bottle.
Sure, Brian. But no, I mean, so that's why it's good to have good judges. And so, we're just thankful for everybody who's volunteered, everybody who is, judging, helping run the tournament. I mean, we just want to say thank you to all of you. We could not run this competition without you guys. Want to give a shout out to, CACMA, the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu, all the tournament participants, all the judges. I mean, everybody, the spectators. I mean, the tournament
volunteers.
Yes, everybody. We cannot do this without you guys, and we are so thankful. So again, come to the Fall Classic. It's going to happen October 12th. Embassy Suites, Airsley. For more information, go to www.kungfuforever.com. Deuces.